Welcome back to the Journal Star Sportswriters podcast. I'm Journal Star sports editor Wes Huett. With me today are sports writers Adam Duvall and John Komosa. We're here to talk a little prep hoops. You want to say hi, Adam?
Hey.
How's it going?
All right, holiday tournaments are past us. Heading to that time of year where what I always found when I cover was the teams start to find their identities at this point in the year. They learned a lot over the holidays, play some tough teams, come out of this, take the triage. Like, what do I have? What am I going to do here down the stretch? Mm-hmm. Who are some teams who've come out of the ashes so far of the holiday tournament? Top teams around the area. We can start with on the boys' side. Girls side, John normally handles the boys. Adam handles the girls. So we'll start here with John talking a little bit about the boys' side.
We kind of break it down. You know, the boys, Notre Dame, like you said, going through a tough slate. That Plano Christmas Classic usually has some teams that they compete with there.
They didn't seem to have a lot of trouble.
They didn't have any trouble this year. Last year, it was a close title game for a little bit, and then they pulled away. But this year, kind of ran through the field, which was impressive. They just looked really good. And like I said, Noah Reynolds just continues to get better each game. They got really talented guards, especially with him and Declan Dillon and Connor Dillon. And they came out of that Christmas tournament, and have kept rolling ever since. And then, another team, like you said, kind of learning their identity from a tournament would be Manual, playing a very tough slate at Pontiac. Right. Went there and dropped 2 games, but since then they've bounced back, defeating Metamora and just kind of finding who they are, especially at the right point in the season. So, just. Those tournaments, like you said, you learn a lot from holiday tournaments, and I think teams like Notre Dame and especially on the small school side, Roanoke Benson, teams like that have just really showed what they're made of. So.
Well, Roanoke was really kind of a surprise. I mean, they're one of the few unbeaten teams in the state. They've been your number one team.
Yeah.
On the small side, similar to Notre Dame. On the big. What's been impressive about Roanoke?
I think Roanoke, kind of what you see with Notre Dame, like they have Connor Dillon, Declan Dillon, Noah Reynolds. I think the thing with Roanoke that makes them such a dynamic team is not only do they have very good defense, an incredible job there by Abe Zeller with that team, but different guys each night. I know they have 2 brothers on the team, Jacob and Logan Nix, and then Jack and Joel Weber, and everybody kind of knows their role, but it helps when you have a guy inside like Luke Brayman who's 6'8". At the 1A level, you don't see a lot of guys that match up with that. So night in and night out, he's getting double-doubles, and then James Early is another really good player. He's a 5'10" guard on the wing, just very aggressive, drives to the basket, and just very good three-point shooter. So they have 5 or 6 guys that can score for them every night, and I think that's why they're 15-0 right now.
How about one of the other small schools ranked? Anybody sort of surprising you? Maybe sneak into those ranks?
Another team right there that's continued to impress is Princeville. Okay. They've won 13 straight games, 14-1. So Jeff Kratzer's doing really good over there. They got Cole Daly, who's kind of been their 2-year or second-year player that's really, really just shown his talent. And they've picked up some wins over Putnam County and Midland recently, and they just look like a very good team this year.
So sort of the girls, obviously, as it starts with most things, Morton, probably somebody you want to spotlight after the holidays?
We'll start on large school. I mean, Morton, obviously 17-0. They've won 27 in a row, dating back to the title last year. They've beaten 51 straight Middle Illini Conference foes.
Wow.
Their biggest test so far this year was that Saturday game against Peoria High, where they trailed for most of the game before closing out the last 4.5 minutes. But Morton continues to impress, and their last 6, maybe 7 games were against teams all with double-digit wins up until last night when they beat Limestone. So they had played kind of a gauntlet of sorts, and.
Well, one thing I think is so important is they're in the middle of an extremely impressive 4 titles in 5 seasons, dealing with multiple kids over the course of. I think it's important to sort of, when we're in it, to appreciate the level of success that Morton has had. I mean, it's easy to do. We've seen the manual runs. We've seen the Richwoods girls in the past, like where being in the middle of one, taking time to take that step back and be like, this is an impressive thing that Bob Becker and that program has done.
You always hear about like, kids being poised and, being, not letting the moment get too. 7 of their 8 top players, including 4 of their 5 starters, are back this year from last year's team.
Wow.
So all those 7 players outside of Maddie Becker, who tore her ACL in the sectional semifinal, they're all back, and they played, in big games, in front of big crowds, in big moments, and it's
that momentum of the program where. It's like you go to state every year and you just all of a sudden you're giving your kids that experience that they can then turn around the next year and use again, and it just starts a cycle.
Right, absolutely.
Who else on the big school side has been somebody's spotlight? First half.
I have to say Dunlap. They're 11-4. They're coming off a nice 10-point win over Canton from last night. They host Limestone on Friday. I'll be out there to see the Eagles. They went 3-1 at the Manual Holiday Tournament, won the consolation bracket. I'm interested to see the core of seniors that they have: Elle Sutter, Ellie Sorensen, Tiara Davis. They even have a freshman, Sophia Remmel, playing up. So I'm interested to see how they gel and they mix with each other. Heather Cassidy. I mean, sure,
right.
Her on the court accolades speak for themselves, but she seems to have done a nice job with the Eagles this year.
Yeah, and it looks like the Eagles might be sneaking into your ranks here. They'll be online at pjstar.com tonight and in the paper tomorrow.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
the boys will be there
Friday
tomorrow night and in Friday's paper. Small school side, obviously, Lewiston.
Lewistown. They should
Lewistown, excuse me.
Yes.
It is. I remember that story you told me years ago about the
I sat next to the curator of the Lewistown Museum, and she was, I guess, the whole entire board of the Historical Society.
President, vice president, secretary.
Yeah, exactly.
Treasurer.
And the guy who founded Lewistown, his son was named Lewis, and so they named it
Lewistown.
Lewistown,
not Lewiston.
Yeah,
Lewistown.
Yeah, Lewistown.
Right.
So they should be pretty much solidified as the top ranked team in the state. I know there was a smattering of first place votes to Lanark Eastland and Amboy, but Amboy beat Lanark Eastland last night. So I expect to see Lewistown as the undisputed number 1 team, and they're just so they don't have any size inside, but they don't need it because they have such good shooters, and they have Anna Heffron, Carly Heffron, Sydney Schaefer, who
Schaefer plays big, even though she's not a big player.
Absolutely. She can jump out of the gym. Great volleyball player too, and excellent softball player. But those 3 press and get turnovers and translate offense to defense and all that. This week, actually, Knoxville, who's statewide number 3 ranked, slides into my rankings at number 3. They're 20-1.
That was a shocking number. I saw that record. I was a little bit like, already to 20 wins, and we're barely past the.
So they needed.
Year.
They have 1 loss, and they needed a half-court buzzer beater to beat Illini Bluffs to advance to the title game of their own Knoxville-Abington tournament prior to them going to the Workins Classic up in Erie. But, they avenged a loss to Monmouth Roseville. Cassidy Grady had a school record 33 points, hit 10 threes, and, they ran away with the title there. So Knoxville is a team to watch, and they have Brimfield still on the schedule.
They're 2A, right, Knoxville?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. They won't play Lewistown, but they do have Brimfield on the schedule.
All right. Well, yesterday we had our first state ranks of the new year. They do one in preseason, right? And then they do one. Wait until the holiday tournaments shake out. On the boys' side, we had Notre Dame at number 6 in 3A. Then Roanoke debuted at number 2.
Yep, At number 2?
In 1A, Quest dropped a few spots, but they're still there at number 8. There's only 3 boys teams ranked. The girls side, quite a few more. 3A, we got 3 of our big dogs. Morton number 1, Richwood's at 5, Peoria High at 7. That was a little bit surprising. I mean, obviously, I'm sure some people have Peoria High ahead of Richwoods and vice versa, and a little bit of a. Obviously, it isn't so much. Not everybody sort of knows.
Richwood's got a nice
losses.
win over at State Farm
Right.
over Chicago Kenwood, which Kenwood was either received votes or in the poll there. So that may have kind of bolstered their ranking. But yeah, head to head, Peoria High did beat Richwoods.
Then slipping down to 2A, Knoxville, like you said before, they debuted at number 3 there. And then in 1A, again, 3 of the top 10. Lewiston, number 1. Brimfield, Lewistown, number 1. Brimfield at 4, and then Princeville slipped in at number 10.
Yeah, Princeville's 3 losses, 2 to Brimfield, 1 to Lewistown.
Speaking of Princeville, John Gross, who he was a teacher when I went to Limestone nearly 30 years ago, and still going strong. I mean, he had that team. It was an exciting trip when they played Marshall in the state title game, and he's had a journey since then. I mean, Richwoods and now at Princeville just got his 800th win.
We did I did a Where Are They Now on him prior to him getting hired at Princeville.
Right.
In that he said he wanted to continue to coach, and sure enough, when there was an opening, the current principal and Kratzer over at Princeville, he's the AD, approached John, and John said, "Yeah, absolutely, I want to coach."
About journalism with impact.
Yeah,
you do that story, and it launches him back into the third leg of his career.
Both took home some hardware in the holiday tournaments, right? Boys and girls at their own tournament.
Yeah,
boys first time in 14 years.
Yeah, swept the field.
Yeah, it's always an exciting time when a school can have both their basketball teams playing well. And go on, looking ahead to a big weekend. Actually, some nice matchups right out of the gate as conference play starts to get going. There's actually a few crossover games this weekend for the boys.
There is. Friday nights, that big conference game, Pekin at Metamora, and then your crossovers are Saturday, Notre Dame at Pekin.
Right.
So that's 2 very tough games back to back for Pekin. So they can come out of that with 2 wins potentially, and may have an upset. That would definitely help them out. And then the other nice crossover game, always like this matchup, is Washington at Manual.
Right.
You never know what you're going to get with a Washington Manual game. It
Right.
can go either way. Both teams are, like you said, kind of finding their identity throughout the year. Washington had some big wins. They've had some losses. They're 8-7 on the year, but that Washington's always been that team that they can kind of come out and beat anybody.
Yeah, they've been pretty strong defensively. It seems like.
Was it been 3 or 4 years now that they played that crazy good regional title game in Washington with DeMonte and Roman and AJ Youngman hit a big 3 and I think
they had a huge matchup at Renaissance, like 3 or 4 overtimes.
Manual, Alec Peters and all that.
So they've had traditionally they've had some great games over the years.
Right. How about over on the girls' side? What's something to watch this weekend?
You know what? I circled for Saturday night Metamora at Morton. Metamora lost last night, snapped a 7-game win streak. Washington beat them. Metamora has some nice young players. Katie Ramage being one of them. Alana Terry is a junior. They're going over to the Potter Dome, and I don't know if that young, maybe just going in, being,
got nothing to lose.
Yeah, that type of mentality. Maybe give Morton a little bit of a run, but I'm not. I don't bet against Bob Becker ever, especially not at home. He's
and in a conference game,
right? Exactly. And
I would look at a game at Dunlap being a tough.
Yeah, that would be the 14th. So next Tuesday. Yeah.
And have they played Washington yet, Morton?
Yes, they did. Yeah, right before Christmas.
Okay.
And then the other game that I had circled on the small school side is Monday. Fieldcrest is at Eureka. It's a rematch of the St. Bede tournament title game. Fieldcrest 17 wins. Eureka, this is a Heart of Illinois game. Eureka won that by, I think, 5. Real big win for them. That should be a nice, real nice game to watch.
Okay. All right. Well, looks like we're gonna make a couple picks for this weekend. We want to start over on the boys' side. There, you got the aforementioned Washington and Manual.
Give you Washington 8-7 at 9-5 Manual.
A couple teams that have shown flashes of greatness so far, and some rough play. But again, tough schedules. What do you think, John? There.
At Manual, I like the Rams in this one, and this could be that type of game where anybody could really step up. Manual's obviously had Pee Wee Brown, that's been their scorer. They got Myreese Bird. Josh Ivory got him a big game earlier in the season when they had a win over Peoria High. So it's going to be back and forth between, Washington has weapons too with Devin Vanderhyth and Gus Lucas. And, it's going to be interesting to see if they do match up well between each other. So I think it'll be a close game, maybe in the 50s or 60s up there, but I think Manual will come out with a victory.
Adam, you have a thought?
I'm gonna say Manual, and I'm actually gonna keep this game in the 40s, like 45-40.
Yeah, I see it being low scoring. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, I think if Washington's to have a chance, they got to keep it low scoring.
Right.
I mean, that's
maybe that is a stretch. Sometimes it's Washington's been up there scoring in some higher scoring games, and then their last two. 30s, I believe it was a 54-45 win against Quincy and a 34-33 loss against Centennial.
Right.
So it kind of depends. And then, Manual playing a 60-44 game with Metamora. So either way, but wouldn't be surprised if they, kind of hit the even there. So.
All right. How about over on the girls' side there?
You know what? I have a Middle Illini game Friday night. Canton at Washington. Canton's 8-7. They're 3-2 in the league. Washington is 12-3. They're also 3-2 in the Middle Illini. Washington's 2 losses. One was to Morton. The other one was to Pekin in overtime last Friday afternoon. In overtime, Taylor Goss, who's committed to Southern Edwardsville, hit a step back 3 with about 5 seconds left, and Washington was able to get off like a 30-footer. I think Canton matches up well in this game. They have some good size. Blair Jacobus, Tori Oakes, Washington, super sophomore Georgia Duncan, absolute stud. She's getting a lot of comparisons to Maggie Crick, Maggie Mose. So, I'm going to say Washington wins this. I'm going to say 51-40.
There you go. John, thoughts?
I think, after kind of picking against them in the boys' side, I like Washington in that one. I think we'll go Washington with the girls' side there.
I'm going to have to recuse myself from both picks. I live in Washington, and my son is starting to become a fan of hoops. So he's a big Devin Vanderhyth fan.
Okay.
We went to the tournament, and then a game against Limestone, and he liked how he plays, and he likes his hair, too, which is a big thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's got that.
He's got to do for sure.
He has a presence.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap it up for this week's edition of the Sportswriters Show. Visit us at pjstar.com/preps. Look for Adam and John's stuff all weekend. Look for the hashtag PJSPreps on Twitter. You can follow us there at PJStarSports and also on Facebook. So until next time, for Adam and John, thanks.